Alright, y'all, listen up. Not to be that guy, but have you ever heard of Anchor? Well, Anchor is the easiest way to start a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. That's all you need to know. You should go to your Play Store or your App Store and download it right now just because it's free. But there's more than that. It actually has creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. I use both. Before I got a mic, I would record on my phone and edit on the computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you and publish it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or whatever your favorite podcast platform may be. And you can start making money almost immediately, even with very little listenership. And I can attest to this because I have very little listenership. I honestly cannot recommend them enough. It's what I use personally. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. What is going on, everybody? This one's going to be a little bit different because I'm just going to really just sit and talk and be real with y'all for a second. Normally when I do my casts, I normally have an outline of everything that I want to say, but I really want to, as I start to get more experience and put more episodes out, I really want to start to put myself more out there. And I really want my audience, which is y'all, to really get to know me and my struggles and everything that's brought me to this point a little better. Because even right now, I mean, I don't have a ton of listeners, I don't have a ton of listenership, but I hope to, you know, whether it takes 3 months or 6 months or a year, I really hope to have a large audience. That's the reason why I'm doing this. And I hope that anyone who is listening to me, whether you be a kid or whether you be an adult or whatever, if you are going through the same things that I went through, if you are having the same issues that I went through, I sort of want to be an inspiration to anyone who might be going through something similar, whether it be 3 months down the road, a year down the road, because I'm doing this to get more listeners, and even though right now I don't, I just hope that maybe somebody will see the topic of this video and play it and just sort of hear how I've gone through things and what I've done to come through, you know. So anyone who's had a conversation with me for more than 10 seconds and all of you who listen to me on the podcast, it's really easy to decipher. It's really easy to hear that I have a stutter, I have a speech impediment. Now on the podcasts, it's a little harder to I guess recognize because I do a lot of editing. I guess if you really want to take a listen to it, go listen to my episode that I did with J Talk Social, because I was a stuttering mess during that episode. But a lot of times what I'll do is, you know, after I finish recording, I'll go back and I'll try to take out as much of the stutters as I can. But I'm not going to do that for this one. And you know, the reason why I've done that is, you know, just strictly just for quality. I know how people are. I know that they're really about quality, and I really want people to actually listen to what I'm saying. And a lot of times they might just cut you off in the beginning if they don't think you are giving decent quality. So that's the reason why I edit them out. But I'm not going to edit anything out for this episode at all. I'm not going to edit out anything. So I've had a stutter. I've had a speech impediment really all of my life, really. And it's been really hard to deal with. You know what I'm saying? And as I've gotten older, it's gotten worse as I've gotten older. I know when I was a kid, I had a speech impediment. I had a stutter. I didn't even really know which one to call it. I'm gonna just call it a stutter. I've had a stutter, and back then I didn't really learn tips and tricks on how to cope with it. You know, now I know what words and I know what sounds and what letters sort of trip me up. So I try my very best to try to not use those as much as I can. Or, you know, there's different little techniques that I picked up throughout the years to sort of minimize the stutter. But when I was a kid, I didn't know any of those tricks when I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? And I know growing up, I grew up an extremely intelligent child. I don't want to brag about it, but I had an extremely high IQ when I was a child, and because of those things, you often get taken out and put into different sort of classes. And the reason is because like the way my brain works, like my brain is moving so quickly. That's why anybody who is associated with me, like they'll always tell you, I'm an idea person. I always have new ideas that I want to try. I always have new creativities that I want to do, and my brain just moves so quickly, and my mouth is not able to keep up. That's the thing about most people who stutter. Or at least I know with mine, the problem is my brain moves way too quickly for my mouth to keep up, and that's the reason why it comes out in a stutter. And even now that I'm an adult, but I'm talking about myself as a kid, and like I said, I don't have an outline for how I want this to go. I'm just gonna talk. So I'm gonna try not to make it go too long. Like I do have some important things that I do want to touch on, but I'm just gonna talk. When I was a kid, it really gave me a lot of insecurities. When I was a kid, a lot of insecurity. I got bullied because of it, and I hated talking, and because of that, I turned into an extremely introverted person. Even right now, I am an extremely introverted person, which is why doing podcasts is actually perfect for me, because I'm able to talk and I'm able to get my voice out without having to be in front of anybody. So it's been great for me. But because of my insecurity, when I was just afraid to speak, I was just afraid to say anything, I was afraid to speak to anybody, I became very reserved, and I became a very introverted person, and that has a lot to do with my stutter. I don't know when it started. I don't know if I've always stuttered, but I do know, I remember in elementary school, I had a huge stutter in elementary school, and I actually did take speech classes. I remember at the local library, my grandmother had enrolled me in speech classes, and the speech classes actually did help. They actually did help. And that's where I started to learn different techniques and different coping mechanisms and all of those things. And the speech classes did help. And when I was in school, I was able to sort of, I'll say, minimize my stutter because of those techniques that I had learned in the speech class. It was great. However, they weren't free. They weren't free at all. And my grandmother didn't have a ton of money, so I stopped taking speech classes. So because I stopped taking speech classes, I never finished my course. And this is another topic that I'm going to sort of go into a little bit when it comes to systemic racism or institutionalized racism. You have a kid who is highly intelligent. You have a kid who has an extremely high IQ, who is a stutterer. So you put him in speech classes to try to learn how to cope and how to learn how to even his playing field. But because he doesn't have enough money, he's taken out of those classes, and now he's never given those opportunities ever again. So now when he's in class and he knows the answer, the teacher's up there asking the question, he knows the answer, but he's afraid to speak. Or he gets an opportunity and he's afraid to talk to that person, or he's afraid to walk up to that person and shake their hand, or walk up to that person and introduce yourself, because you're afraid of how they're going to, I guess, listen to the stutter, or you're afraid that you're going to stutter in front of them. And this is something that I've dealt with my whole life, but I know when I was a kid, I missed out on so many opportunities when I was a kid just because of my insecurities when I spoke. And as I began to, get older, I began to just accept it. This is my life. This is what my life is, and I just need to sort of figure out how to deal with it. And there's so many things that I missed out on just because I was afraid to speak. I had a lot to say. I was a very smart kid, but I was afraid to speak because I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want people to laugh at me when I'm speaking. And that happened all through my childhood, all through my elementary years, all through my middle school year. Middle school is actually when it got worse, because now I'm out of speech classes now. because we couldn't afford it. So because I'm out of these speech classes, I'm not given that same playing field, and I'm not answering questions in class, and I'm afraid to speak up in class, and I'm afraid to be a leader when we do group projects, and I'm afraid to do this, and I'm afraid to do that. So I became reserved, I became quiet, I became timid, and none of those things are what I am. I'm not a timid person. I consider myself to be a great leader. But when I was a kid, I didn't understand all of that. And you build your life when you are a kid. The kids who I work with now, because I work with kids now, I tell them all the time that you are not too young to ruin your life. And my stutter debilitated me and completely stunted my future, completely stunted my growth out of fear. And then I began, as I got older, to find my own copings and my own mechanisms, and I still stuttered. I still stutter. Matter of fact, now that I think about it, it really didn't get better. It really didn't get better. And even when I was in college, I got made fun of all the time for stuttering. But nobody really, I guess, physically stepped to me about it. However, when I was younger, I sustained a severe head injury. I'm not gonna say what it was. We don't know each other like that yet. But I'm just gonna say that I sustained a severe head injury, and that made things worse because all of the progress that I felt like I had made, now it made things even worse because of the shock and the trauma of that. So now, after coming out of that injury, my stutter is even worse now. And what makes things even worse now is that every time I stutter, I get massive headaches every time I stutter. Massive headaches. And I don't know, even in grad school, even when I was in grad school, because the whole thing about college is you need to figure out who your connections are going to be. And I never made those connections, even when I was in class. Like professors have their favorite students, and it's normally those students who step up and speak up and answer those questions in class. And I knew all of the answers that my college and my grad school professors would ask. I knew all of those answers, but I was always afraid to speak up, so somebody else would always grab that limelight from me. Me being a black man, you always got to be better than the next person, and somebody always would speak up before me and get those connections and get that attention from the teachers. So even that just stunted my growth in general. And I'm sure that I've missed out on even more opportunities in education just because people assumed I was a stuttering fool. You know how people are, man. People judge and makes themselves feel good. And people probably assume that I was the stuttering fool when I didn't feel that way inside. I still don't. So the point of this is, now that I'm an adult now, I was an adult in grad school, but now that I feel like I'm more mature now, don't be afraid. I'm not afraid to let my light shine. You know what I'm saying? Who I am is who I am. And even just thinking about all the opportunities that I probably have missed, maybe even all of the jobs that I missed out on because I was stuttering through my interview. I'm sure that's happened a lot of times, but who I am is who I am, and I am the best me I'm ever gonna be. I am the best me you're ever gonna get. Matter of fact, I'm the shit. And anybody who can't see that I'm the shit is an absolute and certified fool. And I don't deal with fools. But anybody who's listening to this who might be going through the same thing, you might have a speech impediment, you might have a learning disability, you might have a stutter like myself, that's gonna be who you are. So what you need to do is look at your qualities. Look at everything great that you do. Everything great that you bring to the world, and don't worry about your stutter. Like I said, right now, I don't have a ton of people who listen to me, but it's my goal to have hundreds, thousands of people listen to me. And if I'm able to just help one person get out of depression, help one person move on with their life, help one person elevate their life, then the amount of time that I spend doing these episodes, it'd be worth it to me. I've said this over and over and over. I do not do this for the money, especially not for this one. But you need to understand that you are the most important person in your life. There is no one more important than you. Not your kids, not your siblings, not your parents. You and only you are the most important person in your life. You are player one in your video game. You are the main character in your story. And you should always come first, no matter what. It's okay to be you. What people say about you is none of your business. So all you gotta do is just mind your business, fam. Mind your business. So that's it for this one. I mean, there's a lot more that I can say, but I truly am trying to be consistent and trying to keep my episodes between 12 and 15 minutes. So if this is a topic that I would like to go back to, if this is a topic that you guys would like for me to talk more about, let me know. If you're listening to this on the podcast, please, I would love for you to subscribe, follow, whatever it is your favorite platform of podcast allows you to do, so you can never miss an episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, I would love a subscribe. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I would love for you to go to my YouTube and subscribe. You could be the very first person to like, subscribe at this particular second. I'm not sure what I'm going to name these segments yet. I'm thinking maybe like Old Man Rants or Wise Man Rants. I don't know. I'll figure something out. But I just hope that I was able to uplift you a little bit in this short amount of time. It's a hard, scary world out there, and if I'm able to just help one person, help anybody, then it's worth it. It truly is worth it, and I just hope that I was able to uplift anybody. That being said, this is J. Lee reminding you all this time to be that guy, because everyone is going to love that guy.